And I'm thinking, no way would you play on my mind and go and start waving bye-bye.
Right, so the busking world.
Yeah.
We've done the sad bit, let's leave that there.
Yes.
So, first of all, I want to talk outfits.
Oh, yeah.
Was it something, so,
talking outfits.
for shows, for shows, you always put on a, it was always make a dress, stand out, etc.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it wasn't the same. To a certain extent. Depends on the weather.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think at the beginning, these early days, I put so much less thought into it all. Okay. So that was something that kind of grew and became a self-made pressure on myself, obviously. Right at the start, I would just, again, it's part of that iconic thing. I'm sure it added a huge amount, but I was unaware, really. I was just wearing the raggle-taggle crazy crap, like random stuff I would make for me. So it wasn't like big old dresses, and it wasn't even like short dresses that were all sort of statement-y, but it was like a skirt. Actually, looking back at photos, I'd have like maybe an old cardigan, which is just weird to think of now, and then like a crazy skirt. Yeah. And that would definitely add, without me knowing, to the whole sort of ragdoll look. Yeah. And it was very much a ragdoll kind of, and also slightly carnival-y, and maybe as we got into summer, if it was festival season, or if I'd had some flowers in the van or something, I'd jam some big flowers in my hair.
And this was bottle blonde?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, do you know? So the busking era, I know this because of looking back at photos. Right before, like when the band began, I was mahogany brown. Yes. I was dark red. And I went into a hairdresser after the band had begun. I think it was the time Game of Thrones and Daenerys was a whole thing, and I wanted to look like Daenerys, which is the ice, the Dragon Queen lady. Bleach blonde, basically, like white blonde. And I went into a hairdresser and I said, "Hi, with this dark, gingery brown hair," and said, I want to be like white. And poor girl, she was like, for anyone who doesn't know about hair dyeing, that is a transition you cannot do easily. And I think she even said, right, we're going to have to do this in a few stages. So,
compare expectations.
I'm not a magician, and I didn't know any of this. I wasn't like aware of the, chemical.
You just stick a colour on, and
I was just
it's going to become that colour.
Just bleach it out, not thinking about anything to do with the health of the hair or anything. But anyway, point was, to go from dark brown to white, you have to go through this sort of salmon phase, and I went through that. So I don't think it was a long salmon phase, thank God. Okay. But I remember, I'm sure that was busking era.
I can't imagine you enjoying that.
No,
you're very precious.
I was I was cavalier in some ways with my hair, like going in and saying like, just bleach it. Like now I would never do that because I'm like, I want to look after my hair. Yeah. But back then I was just a maniac girl that just didn't really care. But no, I do remember thinking like, okay, and I think I realised how it looked looking back at photos and videos of busking and be like, I was in public like. But
we all look
a bit mad.
Phase.
Yeah.
I've done every colour of the spectrum.
You've done every transition.
I'm in my box. I'm going natural spectrum. Yeah. But we've all done it. That's all part of it. I will say, absolutely nothing to do with busking, but I have dyed your hair once.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying.
It's terrifying.
I loved it. I was happy to do it. But it was one of those moments.
It wasn't a horror story though afterwards. I don't remember. It wasn't an experience. I remember thinking, oh God, that's never do that. Never talk to her again. Never, I have to dodge Laura forever now.
Yeah. No, I think you were like going on stage like the night after, and it was kind of like, right, we need to
do something.
I need some blonde here now. Okay, I've got you. Have I? No, it was fine. No, it was absolutely fine.
See, but we talk about hair and clothes, like
pressure.
Yeah. Oh, completely. But it was also though. It was the first. It was one of the first few moments I realised how much photo editing can save. Can save the image of what you remember. Basically, I know in real life some of the unedited photos came back and I'll be like, oh God, my hair's pink. Or like a bad pink, not a kind of fashion pink. Yeah. Or orange rather. And then, but the moment it went in black and white, I was like, oh, that photo looks really good. It's sort of
multitude of sins.
Yeah, exactly. Or like when it did finally get to the bleach blonde, which you were talking about. Again, like you just sort of adjusted the contrast a bit. They looked really cool. And I was like, well, that's kind of what I want my hair to look like. And now that photo exists forever, and it will feel like it did. But I know, yeah, it went through stages. Yeah, I remember. Sorry, we've digressed to hair, but I love talking about hair. The other thing was I had all those this side, loads and loads of dreads, so I kind of became a bit of a, people would know me for the dreads.
Yeah.
And actually a few of us had dreadlocks. And we got love and hate for that.
Yeah.
Like now we'd get more hate. Back then there was a sort of 1% hate, 99%. People thought, oh, that's really cool. Because I put beads and colourful threads and things in it, which I did since I had done that since school time and got told off in school for that. But people would like, because it was, over the years, we'd have people like do artwork of us and drawings, and that would be a really iconic thing that they could add to it. Like, girls with the bright blonde hair with all the crazy beads in it. But yeah, no, it was, I can't remember where I was going with that.
It was a hell of a time.
It was a hell of a time. Hell of a time. And
but it created a look, and therefore, as a group, you stood out no matter where you went. And that is the whole point. That is your self-marketing. Yeah. Like you say, before social media.
Yeah. And it was so, I know I've said it before, and I will say it again, it wasn't contrived. Like, now, it's so funny. We actually did go through a phase with the band of trying to contrive a look. And it's funny because it came off no way better, I think. There was this kind of, we had the kind of rock look at one point, much later. We've digressed into looks of the band, which is a whole other kettle of fish. But no, at the time, we were just carnival, like, ragamuffin look. And it somehow, it was just like, the lads found something in the charity shop, they bung it on, and it kind of, because it was all such a weird mess, it kind of looked okay together. And it was very colourful. Yeah. Really colourful. And like the hair, I just thought, I want to look like Daenerys. I didn't think, but with all these dreads in there, and there wasn't, it was from the want of doing it, not from, oh, how will this look in a photo, which is why, now it would be very different, unfortunately. People would try and engineer the look backwards rather than to be like, well, what do you want? What do you feel like looking like?
Definitely.
Yeah, but there was very little thought. There was a lot of like bare feet. There was a lot of frayed edges. There was a lot of dirt. Sounds really weird, but like, we might have just come away from a festival where things were a bit dirty and mud, and it kind of didn't matter. It added to that sort of peasant busker look.
Yeah. You pulled it off. It's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so busking.
Yeah.
Did you ever, what sort of communications did you have with? So people throwing money in, obviously, that era, fantastic. It wouldn't be that now.
No.
Communications with the public, or did you ever have anyone approach you, or?
Well, yes. Yeah, there were. There would always be. It's quite funny because in the high street, you're just performing and people can literally walk right up to you, like stand on your toes and talk at you. Whether or not you're singing, they will do that. On a stage, you get away from that. But like, no, we'd sometimes literally be singing, and especially if both of us are singing, like no one's free to be polite and talk. But also, you'd have passerbys just sort of coming up and saying, oh, I've got a great, opportunity for you, something. And I think you don't want to be rude. No one wants to be rude, but you're halfway through a verse. And you're like, da-da-da-da. And you're all eyes being like, great,
give me 2 more minutes.
Let me finish this performing this bit. But no, we'd have people that would come up, and it's always the way. You'll get offers of like, oh, you should play in my local pub, which is great. Or, oh, I know an A&R guy. You'd get ones that thought, oh, I know a manager of a record label or something. That is two of many, many different kind of things. Oh, and people want to help, definitely. Yeah. And then you have to kind of, generally we kind of went with all of it. We were like, okay, cool, yeah, go. Let's meet the A&R guy. Depending on where the pub was, let's do the pub. We might have just played at that pub, who knows?
Yeah.
And so you had to kind of sometimes kind of gauge, okay, well, it's leads basically, which lead is worth following up on.
Yeah.
The one funny one was this wasn't a lead necessarily, but we were in Faversham, and it was around the Hop Festival time of, I think that was why, we were going to play at the Hop Festival, which is a big thing in Faversham. The actual show was really good. People talked about it for weeks and weeks after. But we busked a few days before, And we had our big band, a little band rather, right behind us. Again, colourful band behind, all these crazy people in front. It's undeniably like eye-catching. Anyway, the man was here talking to what would have been Rob, maybe, I can't remember. And we finished the that was going on well. But no, Rob we went to finish the song and Rob goes, hey, I think that was that was Bob Geldof. And he's from Faversham.
Yeah,
he's from Faversham. And I think it was Rob, maybe it might be one of the others. But he said, well, what did he say? What did he talk to you about? Because it somehow happened when none of us, otherwise we would have all kind of gone, hello, like made a point of
this one we will stop for.
Yeah, we literally stopped it. He was so unassuming, this guy, Bob Geldof, what turned out to be called Bob Geldof. And all we found was that he'd said, oh, they're actually quite cool, actually. Oh, they're actually quite cool. And maybe he hadn't said it. Maybe Rob overheard him saying that. And we were mid-song, so he didn't talk. But I just remember they're actually quite cool became a thing that we put on the next poster, Bob Geldof.
Yeah.
Which was quite funny, because we thought, well, he doesn't know that he's just given us like a little testimony.
Fantastic. Quote. Well, that's it. You never followed up.
No, nothing from then. Yeah.
Come on.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of other. I know that we maybe got a lot of like wedding gigs from busking. So we'd have like, oh, would you play at my wedding? And then we'd end up being their first dance, playing their first dance. And that was kind of cool, just sort of seeing people. That's how, it really did kind of go from one thing to another.
Yeah.
You're playing barefoot in a weird, scraggly dress, and then something like someone's wedding, playing their first dance. It's like,
yeah. So when you were out on tour, obviously, I mean, from like stats and stuff that you've got tickets on the day sales, and that's a very normal thing.
Yeah.
Did you have people after a show sort of come up and say, oh, I saw you when you're busking?
Yeah, loads, lots and lots. Especially if the busking, you'd always choose the town centre. So generally, you get people out and about on the day, and then you'd eyeball them, or they'd eyeball you rather, and go like, oh, is this true you're playing tonight? And then afterwards, they'd be like, oh my God, I saw you busking, I didn't know. Because they would see us, the street version of us. And then obviously by the time we were touring properly around the UK, we had a really slick stage performance.
Yeah.
Like that was absolutely leagues above what you saw on the street, because it had to be that way.
Yeah, of course.
So for them to see like, a load of crazy people on the street, and then suddenly being this kind of really polished show with like backing tracks and sort of all sorts of other crazy things going on, really looking really professional, they'd be like, oh my gosh, what a transition of, and it was cool. It definitely hooked in a lot of people around the UK.
Yeah.
That helped a lot with our fan base.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I'm wrong in saying busking kind of phased out.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
I mean, the obvious answers are you want people to pay to come to a show.
That's true. That is
true. There is an element of you're not going to put a show on.
Why would it be free in the street when you want?
Yeah. Obviously, you got busier.
Yep.
Which is a big thing. Do you think the fact that you were then putting stuff on social media had an impact as well? Because that marketing change
moved. Yeah, I think possibly that would have made a difference. Being on social, it is that thing of like, well, if we can do a good video and it can get seen by thousands of people, why would we waste hours and hours? Yeah, I think also we were always trying to do a huge amount. I remember there was like, oh, let's do a YouTube channel that is only covers, and that kind of never quite happened. But it was things like, maybe at the time we were trying to busk a lot, we were also trying to do that, or at least start that. And there were only so many hours in the day, even though there were loads of us, loads of man hours. We couldn't. I'm wondering as well though whether there was a bit of it felt like the feel of the band changed, and it sort of had to progress somehow. You couldn't stay as this kind of carnival motley crew forever, because we're kind of all getting older and all these different internal things are happening in the band, like relationships are doing what they're going to do, but also we had influence from a publisher. So peer publishing was so we had like people on side that were bigger and better than us, like going to help lead the band to the next step. Kind of like, okay, let me give you your big break. And we had a few characters throughout the years that were there, And I think they didn't push busking. They weren't against busking, but they were like, no, let's play with the big boys now.
Yeah.
Like, let's do it
And it is
the
that.
proper way. Yeah.
A professional band isn't out on the street busking, which is now actually almost funny to say. I don't know if you've seen this. Timing of this will be either really poor or depending on when this goes out. But Ed Sheeran has just released Azizan or something. I probably got that completely wrong. And did a busk in London on his promotional tour.
Oh, I think I saw that. Yeah.
And he's quite good at doing just appearing.
Yeah.
But then he's Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
So you don't look at it as, oh, that's a guy that you need to throw.
Yeah.
He's doing it, and actually he's doing it because 1,000 people have got their phones on him.
Yeah.
And are going to put it on Instagram and TikTok, and I've seen Ed Sheeran live, and
it's now more of a.
It's a gimmick.
Yeah. It's a move.
A,
it's literally like a tactical thing.
Yeah.
No, but do you know what? In all of these years, it's brilliant, but it's so like. We were busking in Brighton at one point, and I think there was a time where a lad came up to us and said, "Oh, do you mind if I take the spot when you're done?" And he was really polite about it and just said, "When do you think you might be finished?" And we said, "Oh, we'll do another hour." Of course, yeah, have the spot when we go. And then solo lad with guitar. And a year later, so that lad got noticed busking in Brighton, and he got recorded in a really well-known studio, and he suddenly went from busker to number one. Can you guess? It was James Bay. Yeah. It was so annoying. It was brilliant for him, but that was an example of, it's like the chances of your video viral, the chance of you being spotted busking. Right place, right time, right guy, right woman. But yeah, it was like, oh wow, well done, man. And we were hearing like Hold Back the River on the radio. We're like, we heard him just like jamming that out as his sound check for him busking.
Brilliant.
So there is no rule, clearly.
So your last couple of busks. So there are two.
Yeah,
that I've got in mind.
You've got because you'll know.
So obviously, as I said, we did the one as part of the event in Canterbury.
Yeah.
And we did put the guitar case out, and but it wasn't what it was about. We also sold merch as well.
That was it.
But
it was extended, but busk, wasn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Very, very different from what you've done before, because obviously for the latter years you've had a massive drum kit.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
It's not that easy to busk.
No, that would have had an impact. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, that would have had an impact. Our lineup was changing so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Actually, to be fair, I don't think you can call this busking in the slightest, but certainly a jam session.
Yeah.
You did on a canal boat in Birmingham.
Oh my god. Yeah, on a canal boat in Birmingham. And I remember Raf was turning the boat around at one point. No, I'm joining two stories here, but I just remember there was this group that had come out to the canal line to see us play, because it, again, really eye-catching, loads of musicians. We must have thought they stepped into a film. And then Raf we had to do like a 3-point turn because of where we were in a canal thing, in a longboat.
Yeah.
And I just remember this awkward thing of like, just keep playing, and you're like slowly moving backwards, and then you're moving into the side. And just keep playing.
Didn't we get stuck?
Yes.
Didn't we leave James on the...
Oh, probably.
I think we left James. Like, didn't James try and get out and push? And we left him and he had to go and jump back on.
Maybe.
Yes.
I am definitely converging two stories a little, but maybe we did just give up playing by that point. And also, in that stint of busking or public performance to this, I think it was just a little cafe of people. It wasn't because it was...
It was just a lovely morning of sunshine, and we were away on a holiday, for want of a better. It was just a group...
outing.
Yeah.
A jolly.
Yeah, it genuinely was. A little group holiday, just to... not do the norm.
Yeah.
So of course every single one of you takes an instrument, because you can't be apart from them for more than a day. And we just sort of set up.
I do remember we must have started kind of early, or I just maybe down and slept in quite late. But anyway, I just sort of like bowled in with sacks, like walking from the other end of the boat, like along the roof in his boxes. Probably that was standard.
Yeah.
You do get to know everyone very well, busking and touring. That's a huge topic for another one. But you are closer than family.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, definitely.
which is
Okay.
amazing. But yeah, no,
Busking.
good times.
Wrapped it up.
I remember it well.
Good.
Yeah, but hard to replicate. I don't know if there would be busking from now on.
I think it's a dying art.
Yeah, it's a shame. It might become, as we said, more organised. It's more organised fun, more street performers.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you never know. It might come back around.
Yeah.
Everything seems to.
No, it's true. It
As
might.
long as you've got a credit card.
Yeah, exactly. Or just a lot of people with no, just time to kill
Yeah.
and enjoy it.
Perfect.
Cool. Well,